Welcome to the Conspiracy Theory Roundtable, a dimension where divergent voices decipher the uncharted. Here, controversy meets convention under the guidance of our unseen compass. A cryptic dance of theories and truths ensues. Your journey into the unknown starts now with Conspiracy Theory Roundtable.
What is up, guys? So we are here with another installment of the Conspiracy Roundtable. So I was lucky enough to be a part of this before on the Flat Earth episode. But now we're hitting it back up, talking dinosaurs. Dinosaurs on trial tonight. So I myself am Teresa from the Spiritual Gangsters podcast, also occasionally co-host the Occult Rejects with NY Patriot. And who else do we have tonight in the house talking dinos?
Yo, Big Country from the Whiskey, Beer, and Conspiracy podcast. One of three hosts. What's going on? Truth Seekers.
And I am Slick Frank Sanders from the Hush Hush Society Conspiracy Hour podcast.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Here we are.
All right.
Yeah. Dude, you guys should literally turn your show into like a fireside chat.
Oh, you know, that's funny you say that. The Cryptid Chronicles, we haven't hit one in a while. But once we converted to video, the plan was to make it look like that. We were all going to get away from our computers, set up our webcams in the middle of a room, have a backdrop of a forest, sit in a camping chair, like have lights that mimic fire.
I love it.
Still want to do it. But
Virtual
it's a little
campfire.
intense. Yeah.
That would be cool. Or like even if you didn't do the video like that, record it and then put like that filter on the audio sounding like a 1920s, just in breaking news.
Yeah.
That would be dope.
I love
I would
that.
love that.
Stay tuned for that from Hush
Yeah,
Hush.
right. Breaking news. Totally believe us. Aliens are real.
Oh,
coming.
shit. Maybe that should have been what we talked about. So.
I know.
Yeah,
so that's
for real.
totally not the topic. Can we bounce on that real quick?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
maybe
let's
chop
do
this
it.
and use it as
Dude,
like
it's
extra content or whatever?
It's
Well,
big
it's
news.
kind of related, honestly. I was saying to Frank before we got started,
dude.
Frank the Frank, but before we got started, that dinosaurs and flat Earth, or the shape of the Earth or space in general, is kind of similar in terms of like topics, because I feel like one, it's something you cannot find a lot of info on unless you know where to look. If you're trying to just Google it or something, you're going to get all this parody stuff or like stuff making fun of you even thinking about it. And it's things that you learn when you're very small, very young, before you have like questionable reasoning. And then you just are not allowed to question it thereafter. You learn about it in kindergarten or earlier, and then that's it. And then people are like, whoa, you don't even understand grade 1 science. How dare you question this? It's like, dude, I didn't even know how to wipe my ass when I learned this. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, like you're not even allowed to question these types of things.
Right. So I feel like they are actually similar topics.
Yeah, it's very unique too, because I have a perspective of I went to a private school and they taught the same thing. It wasn't like a secular versus like a Christian school. That makes no difference because the curriculum still comes from the same place.
Totally.
Yeah. So for maybe contrary to popular belief, they don't teach in private schools. At least they didn't in mine, for sure. I can say that firsthand knowledge, like flat Earth or dinosaurs aren't real. No, they add all the normal propaganda in. Just they're like, but God did it, at the very end. That's where they.
That's so
stamp
funny.
it.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I have a Christian background also, but it's like I never thought how does dinos fit in with the creation narrative? Never occurred to me till not all that long ago in my life. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Well, the Vatican came out in like the late 90s and talked about dinosaurs a little bit, and that was sort of their stance, that it had to do with the whole creationism aspect of it, and that they couldn't dispute dinosaurs to defend religion in any sort of way. Like, they're not going to say, well, they weren't real,
Yeah, because then that adds more distrust for the religious community, especially one that large. Right. I mean, there was no different than COVID, right? They did, like,
Yeah.
churches still shut down and wore masks and stuff like that. And then when you came back, you had to wear a mask. I'm like, dude, I thought we were here because we believed in a higher being that is above all of that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, that's right. You're a 501c3. So you get your tax credit as long as you do what they tell you.
Still need those donations.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know, right? And same, well, aren't Jesuits behind the heliocentric model at
Came from a Jesuit priest.
right? So, I don't
Schweine
know.
Juden. Surprised I haven't gotten in trouble for that one yet.
Wow,
Probably
look at
coming.
you.
No, real quick, I just want to say about this whole alien thing going on right now. This is my favorite thing about the conspiracy community, because people have their biases, right? Depending on what you talk about the most, what you look at the most, what you like the most. There's one Instagram page. I don't want to say their name, but like every event that happens ever, anything semi-major to major, they have like screenshots and stills of like, nope, fake. Here's the Illuminati hand sign. Here's the Freemason hand sign. Look at the street sign. Look at this. Look at, and like literally everything. And I'm like, okay, maybe not everything can be fake, but then maybe everything can be fake. I don't know. We're in the Matrix anyways. This is my favorite thing though. You have biases. Okay, so you have a camp out there who are full-blown conspiracy theorists, right? But also believe in aliens. And that's fine, right? That's fine. That's your thing. But in that same camp, they're also like, the government's hiding stuff from us, like the CIA is watching us. They're in those camps too. And then a CIA, right? A CIA agent, whistleblower, goes in front of Congress and goes, "Yep, we got aliens." And all the guys in the conspiracy world who literally say, "I don't trust the government," go, "See, fucking knew it. Fucking knew it." I'm like, wait, so now we trust spooks?
Right?
Because it confirmed your bias? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the whole thing's sort of a wash, in my opinion. I think it could be one of two things, and that's either aliens are real and for some reason they're trying to convince us really slowly that's the case, or trying to slow drip that information to adjust the population to the idea that is in fact real, or it's hogwash, it's BS, and they're still trying to slow drip it for whatever purpose that may be for, 20 years from now when they do some sort of fake fucking invasion or something. But yeah, when it comes to them getting in front of Congress and saying anything, that means nothing. There's tons of Congress hearings about absolute garbage, nonsense, lies. If you watch any of the firearms hearings, people getting up there talking about shit they don't know left from right. They don't know what a stock is. They don't know what a trigger is, and just because it's said in front of Congress doesn't mean it's true.
They had 9/11 hearings also. Does that mean anything?
You want to hear a shocking statistic that is actually true? They debated in Congress over the usage in steroids longer than they debated in Congress about 9/11.
Wow.
That is a true statistic.
That's sad.
Well, they're like, yeah, I'll come to order. Yeah, we know we did it. Anyways, next topic.
I guess, yeah, well, there wasn't really much to discuss.
All right, guys, see you on vacation.
Right? They're like, let's just get this over with.
Show face for the camera. Oh, yeah. So sad.
Basically, right? But yeah, the whole alien thing is weird, man. Like you were saying, Big Country, it's like, especially with the Sound of Freedom movie that came out. I've seen, neither here nor there on the movie, but I've seen the most ridiculous minutia trying to tear apart the people behind the film. Like, one time in 1998, he had a picture like this. Therefore, we can't trust this film. But then, like, we're going to just trust what's being said at this hearing. Like, are you fucked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just because it confirms a bias. That's what I believe.
I guess, right? Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Yeah, to be continued.
For sure.
That's the extra portion you have to pay for. You had to listen. You had to pay to listen to that. Dinosaurs. We're here for dinosaurs.
What you guys think?
This one kind of sucked, honestly, because as a kid, I loved them. I absolutely loved them. I have a 2.5-year-old son right now. He's got like 50 of them. books, magazines. He's seen Land Before Time.
Hell yeah.
He's got dinosaur fucking pajamas. And it sucks that one day, and he's a little bit older, I'm like, hey, guess what, dude? These are all fucking fake.
Yep.
But so it was tough, man. It was a hard one. And like you said, Teresa, in the beginning, there is not a lot of information out there unless you kind of know how to sift through the first 2 pages of web results. Get past that bullshit, you know what I mean? Because they know most people won't go past page 1.5.
Right. Yeah.
To really kind of find what you're looking for. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me. What about you guys?
I struggle with it in the same way because I did grow up loving dinosaurs, all the Jurassic Park movies. I watched all of that Land Before Time. I forget the name of the show, but it was like the humanized dinosaurs. Yeah, 90s-ish with the baby. Yeah.
It was dinosaurs.
I
Yeah.
watched a lot of that. So yeah, it's hard to even think, that dinosaurs aren't real. And then you've got whole entire fields of science and research that are dedicated to these creatures that very well may have not existed. Like when you start to really add up the facts, there's definitely some disputable things that make you scratch your head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those topics where I never really thought about it that much. And then when I did start to hear about it, I was like, oh, that's it's a mind fuck, that one, because it's in your psyche from such a young age. And again, similar age, grew up with Jurassic Park. Toronto, where I'm from, had a naming contest for their NBA team, first Canadian NBA franchise.
Raptors.
All the little kids, Raptors, because it was 1995, in the height of Jurassic Park fame. So we have the Toronto Raptors. My kid,
I didn't know that's how they got their name. I was always curious about that.
It was a contest, yeah, and then somebody won it. Yeah, I have 2 young boys, so they love that topic. And then we have Apple TV, and there's a show on there right now, if you go in the documentaries and stuff, and it's a full-on CGI done up on steroids about dinosaurs and how they lived and how they did this and how they did that. And my youngest son is really into it, and he's like, Mommy, do you want to watch this with me? And I'm like, sure. And then the whole time I'm like, but how do they know that? And I'm asking him, I'm like, how do you think they know that? He's like, I don't know, it's cool. And I'm like,
Great answer, though. Great answer.
Yeah. And they make it look very realistic. The whole thing, honestly, I'll just say, the whole thing, just you can stop and think about it, is how did they procreate?
Yeah. Well, another interesting aspect I got to say to piggyback off of that, because okay, let's do this real quick. How about we do this? Did you guys have a favorite dinosaur? Did you have one? I don't want to say a breed, but I guess a breed.
Species.
It was definitely the T-Rex or the trifecta, the big ones, the T-Rex, the Triceratops, and the Stegosaurus.
Okay, see, I was a Velociraptor guy.
There you go.
Oh, they're cool, right? The smartest ones.
Teresa, what about you? Did you have one?
I don't know if I really had a favorite. Maybe it's a female thing. I'm not I wasn't super obsessed about it, but I always found it interesting.
Because of the misogyny of dinosaurs?
I don't know. It's little girls, you can try to raise them gender neutral, but somehow they like pink, or somehow they like to play with dolls, even if you try not to do it. I had a brother though, so by osmosis, I was a tomboy a little bit. But a favorite dinosaur, probably raptors, I guess, because they were cool as fuck in the Jurassic.
They had the little hook.
Yeah, the tap, that
little hook. Yeah.
Right?
It's like Morse code.
But I like the Brachiosaurus type because they seem so sweet and giraffe-like with their long, graceful necks. They're herbivores, supposedly, right? And did you know, the name, the word Brontosaurus is not a word?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not a real dinosaur. Surprise! None of them are real, maybe. But yeah, I found out that's not a real dinosaur, and I was like, but my whole life I was.
Yeah. Well, dude, I got my son these flashcards that have dinosaurs on them.
Yep.
On the back it says how to pronounce their name.
Yeah.
It's okay, when I was a kid, there was 12. There's 12 different dinosaurs that you could get.
So
right?
fucking many now.
And now there's all these ridiculous, stupid fucking breeds because they keep just making it up.
Yeah.
But there was one, it was called Polyosaurus. like, but it's spelled like Polyo Saurus. And I was like, did Pauly Shore fucking find this one? Because it had like a mohawk. I swear to God, it has like a mohawk and like two horns over here. And he's like, yo, Polyosaurus, dude. Like, they're not even trying anymore. And then they're adding like different colors to what the scientists think they were green and blue. I'm like, what?
Like, how could you possibly know that? Honestly, if you're just finding fragments of fossils, say you are finding like legit fossils, how do you know what color the fucking feathers were or this how the skin was?
Well, it's the first one.
That's the best part. That's a huge piece of evidence that lends to the fact that these things probably didn't exist. The fact that they keep on changing what certain dinosaurs may have looked like.
Yeah.
It's something like every couple of years I see a new article. Now scientists think that T-Rexes looked like this. They thought they had feathers. They thought they were red. They thought they were green. And it keeps on evolving.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one thing that actually shocked me. That was kind of like almost the nail in the coffin for me, right? The first thing when I first heard about this, because listen, if you're listening to this and this is your like first time hearing this, you probably thought the same thing we did at that point of like, no, dude, like it was a long time ago. I've seen the fossils, you know, they find them in the ground. There's pictures, right? All this stuff. And then to hear that like the velociraptor, the way that we envision the velociraptor, right? Probably like shoulder height, very fast, a hunter, it's a pack animal, claws, right? That's how it's always been. That's even as a kid. Like I remember my parents taking me to see like animatronic dinosaur exhibits and stuff.
Yep.
That was a velociraptor. I was like, oh, my dad wants to see a velociraptor. And now they're saying that thing was no bigger than the size of a turkey and had feathers. And I was like, okay, why do you guys keep making stuff up? Like, okay, let's just base this on the fossils, right? Just talking about the velociraptor. If you're telling me you found a fossils of a velociraptor and then you put it all together and it was not the fucking size of a turkey, right? And then from the time you had first found it, let's just say the late 1800s up until 2000 something, you're like, actually, it's the size of a fucking turkey and it had feathers. Like, so you ran for like 35 years?
What about then like the exhibits in the museums that are bigger than turkeys?
Yeah.
So,
like the
so
completed skeletons that are not actually legitimately complete.
So what, then you go, okay, so what is that then?
Yeah, you just found like 5 bones that you thought maybe could have been a velociraptor, so you arranged those and then filled in the rest with your imagination.
That's what a lot of it is. Actually,
Right?
I don't have the exact statistic, but I think there's only ever been a handful of actual entire dinosaur skeletons dug up out of the ground by paleontologists. Most of it is fragments of the skeleton. You got a femur bone here, you've got the jaw up here. Okay, there's a portion of the skull, and then they composite the rest of it. And when it comes to the museums, none of those are bones. Those are all
like
plaster casts.
Yeah, they're casts.
And I think if you go, because last time I took my kids to the museum in Toronto, we have the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum, and there's a big dinosaur level. And if you read the plaques carefully, it will say like which bones are the actual bones and then which are like the fillers. And there's like 2 like each one. I'm like, oh God. And then there's the whole question of like maybe biology was just gigantic sized prehistorically. So maybe what we're seeing and thinking is dinosaurs was actually just like giant ass lizards and giant turtles, and you know what I mean?
Well, that's what we've been told. So apparently during those eras of Earth's history, right, you've got all the different Jurassic, I don't even know all the different names. You get
Mesozoa. I almost said mesothelioma. You know, the mesothelioma air is real smoky and shit.
That's a asbestos thing. That's different.
But I guess during those periods of time, there was significantly more oxygen in the atmosphere, like upwards of 50% more oxygen, which allowed everything, plants and animals alike, to grow way, way bigger. That's what these paleontologists say. That's just what they tell us.
Well, here's another interesting fact about the dinosaurs. So doing research on this, like you'd said, there's not a whole lot to find. But when you find it, you do find quite a bit all at once. And it seems that they kind of in consensus, they cover all the same things and all the same, I'll call them hypotheses about what they were, but they all seem to match, right? So, and this is, like you said earlier, Teresa, this is kind of ties into flat earth, and it does, because the only other time I've heard of this has happened in flat earth, right? So in 1842, there was a guy named Richard Owen, and he was the one that coined the term dinosaur, right?
Yes.
Okay. They didn't even know what it looked like. They had no idea, because no one up to that point had ever even found a fossil, a tooth, a claw, femur, anything like that. All over the world, throughout any generation, didn't matter regionally where you were, ancient cultures, Egyptians, the Asian cultures, natives here in the States, probably in Canada too, never once found anything that resembled a dinosaur bone. So the term comes out in 1842, and it wasn't until 18 that they had thought that they had found their first dinosaur bone, fossil. And then from that bone, like you said, Frank, they imagined what this, according to the description, dinosaur means giant lizard or great lizard.
Terrible lizard.
Terrible lizard. What it would look like off of this one fossil. And then after that, they just went hog wild with it. Now, I relate that to flat earth on this. The term satellite was created before they had ever built a satellite. So that's the only other time I've ever seen something like that.
Weird.
Where coincidentally they had a name for a thing that they were looking for, but had no idea what it was, what they were looking for, and then found the thing that they didn't know that they were looking for. Like
a little suspicious.
A little problem reaction solution. A little Hegelian magic.
Okay.
Right? Well, yeah, even just the word itself. Dinosaur means terrible lizard. Tyrannosaurus rex, king of the terrible lizards. Mm-hmm. Rex being to me, Rex is actually a pretty occult term. It's used in a lot of secret society stuff. I think in the OTO, things like that. So also interestingly, I did find when I watched Jurassic World Dominion, the latest one, randomly, one of the dinosaurs they decided to put in the film was the Quetzal. Of all the dinosaurs you could choose, of all the imaginary ones that exist in the minds of people, why did you pick the one that's Quetzalcoatl related? Going back, yeah, going back to Q, the Order of Quetzalcoatl, the Fiery Serpent. I'm is this a Masonic note in the film?
Well, and the name's Dominion too.
And then the whole movie is about the genetically modified locusts eat natural crop, but don't eat the genetically modified crop. So that company's crop can thrive, but the poor farmer's crop is getting destroyed. Very interesting, this plot.
Yeah. Yo, that was about dinosaurs.
Right? And that was about dinosaurs. So are dinosaurs just a Masonic myth? Also, Big Country, how you brought up that the term was coined in 1842. Then I was wait, isn't that when oil kind of started to become a big thing?
Yeah, and the term fossil fuel came about, and they used that heavily throughout the 1900s, which kind of gave that notion of, hey, this stuff is very limited,
right?
Fossils,
Scarcity,
rare, yeah,
right? Because if you think about it, if we've been using oil from dinosaur bones since 1850s, let's say, think about how much oil is used in the world every single day. every single city, every single car, every single plane and vehicle. It's like it's unfathomable how much oil gets used. I know it's a quantifiable amount, but it's a lot. You actually think that many dinosaurs existed and died to become oil that we still use in 2023? Like, are you on drugs? It's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Well, yeah, they even had that one oil company. I think it was Sinclair, and it had like a Bronchiosaurus on it,
Yeah.
and
That's right.
because of fossil fuels. And then in the show Dinosaurs, their last name was Sinclair.
Oh God! And isn't Sinclair one of the 13 bloodlines?
Probably
I think it is.
wouldn't
Oh,
shock me.
that's
Probably Bronchiosaurus too. It's probably in there too.
I think they used that logo too in a Pixar movie.
They have.
Yeah, they have.
I forget which one, but it's familiar. Yeah.
Cars, baby. I feel.
Bloodline family.
Or
So
maybe Toy Story. I don't know. Doesn't
so
matter.
Frank, what was your like awakening moment in this topic here?
Just the shistiness around digging up fossils,
Oh, dude,
finding
Sinclair
a
is
small
Jesus'
piece.
bloodline. Sorry.
Oh, supposedly, yeah, like the Merovingian bloodline. Or...
Yeah, the Knights Templar. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well,
Sorry, I was like, damn, that goes deep. My bad. Go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
No, just the whole process of paleontology is essentially guesswork. It's all guesswork and hypotheses that are claimed to be fact. That's the wake up. That's the eye opener. Like, how do you even begin? The Earth has changed so much over the course of how many years? Nobody knows, but you get it. The land masses change. How does a group of scientists come together and say, we're going to dump a bunch of money and we're going to pick this tiny plot right here and we're just going to dig for years until maybe we find something, and that little bit of something we'll just we'll use our imagination and try to figure out what it was.
Well, and here's the thing, man, is like, so a lot of people don't know about like the Bone Wars, right? So
Yep.
this was between Marsh and Cope, and they were two warring paleontologists, and they were literally at a race to see who could find the most dinosaur bones, and they completed like so many dinosaur bones. They turned those into like species of dinosaurs, but they were the only ones finding them.
Yeah,
Like
they came up with like 500 of them or something.
Yeah, like no other paleontologist. Like we've been digging after. Are you getting lucky? We can't find. They're like, yeah, we're hitting the jackpot right here. Fuck off, though. You can't come over here. So one right after the other, they hit the dinosaur gold mine, and then nobody else can find them, and then it kind of tapers off from there. But interestingly enough, very similar to the moon rocks that they sent back when they gave to like the president of Holland or something like that, or whatever it was, and they tested it and it was just petrified wood. Like, of the dinosaur bones that they had tested, like the ones that were allowed to be independently tested didn't even turn out to be fossils anyways. And they're like, oh, this must have got mixed up with the other ones that we had. But trust us that all of the plaster cast are actually based on the real fossils, but you're not allowed to see them. We have them locked up. They're safe because they're very old. They're brittle. I'm like, okay, so they're so old and brittle that you can't put them on display. And like, we have such technology today to where you could control the environment to make sure that inside the case, it's not going to deteriorate. We do that with the Declaration of Independence. Like, it's humidity control, all this shit, right? Lasers to protect, right? All this shit. You're saying it's too brittle to do that. But at the same time, you took a fucking plaster and you just rubbed it on there and scooped it all up so you could make a replica of it. And then, like, you cracked that bitch open and glued it all together. And you're like, bam, plaster cast. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure both of them came up with their own fake bones to sort of boast their credentials and give them a little bit of more oomph. But there was like foul play there between the two of them. They were allegedly stealing bones from each other, bribing people to go and mess up his bones so that I have more and I'm the big dinosaur guy. And they were excavating in the same couple of states, Nevada, Wyoming. There's a handful of other ones. And I'm sure they knew about each other's excavation sites. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were both planting things into each other's excavation sites. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I don't know why, but like, maybe you thought you just dug up a $500,000 bone, but it's actually plaster.
Right.
Mm,
Or like, have you guys ever seen that episode of King of the Hill when they were digging up his yard
no.
and they had like a bunch of paleontologists out there or whatever, and like Hank thought it was so stupid, so he took a bunch of chicken finger bones and he tied like a necklace to it and like torched him with the blowtorch and threw him in the hole so his wife would find it and then give it to the paleontologist or whatever, and they would like he could prove them stupid because he was like trying to get them out of his yard or whatever. He's like, they're not as smart as they think they are, and they figured it out. It was just chicken bones, and he said something smart to his wife, so he pushed him in the hole or whatever. There's like a whole episode about it, like basically telling you like, yeah, like people were faking these dig sites. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Piltdown Man. Have you ever heard of Piltdown Man or the Piltdown Man hoax?
No,
No.
what's that?
So, because what you have to understand too is like dinosaurs tie into evolution,
Yes.
right? They do it in this old, silly, fucking crazy way. I'm a religious no, I'm not religious. I shouldn't say that. I believe in a creator, right? I have a relationship with the creator. So I don't believe in evolution on like a macro scale.
Big Bang type of
Like
way.
the Big Bang
Yeah.
to a primordial soup to millions of years, something crawled out, decided to grow legs, monkeys. Like that's to me, that's just dumb. And
Monkeys
I don't,
stayed monkeys, but humans became humans.
yeah,
somehow.
like I don't even. It's not even necessarily because of a creator. Like even I think if I was an atheist, I'd be like, yeah, but that's fucking stupid. Like just in my brain. But anyways, Piltdown Man, right? So Charles Darwin in 1912, archaeologist, obviously came up with evolution, claimed that he had made one of the most important fossil discoveries of all time. It was called Piltdown Man. However, in 1953, they falsified the remains and that the fossils were actually made up of modern human bones and an orangutan mandible. So like that was his missing link between like humans and monkeys. And then in 53, so 41 years later, they're like, actually, all that was fucking fake. But they did not drop the theory of evolution, even though they were claiming that as the missing link. They're like, your theory's still correct. We just can't find the missing link. And what you said was the missing link was a hoax. So dinosaurs fit into all that. But like what you were saying there, Frank, the contaminated dig sites, like even if they knew about their excavations, they're still doing something in their mind so great for science, unless they know it's fucking bullshit too. Right? Because even if we're competing paleontologists, and I'm trying to find more fucking dinosaurs, I might be considered the famous at the time because I found 400. But let's just say I'm from a unique part of the world, not as big as maybe where you're from, and I found 490 dinosaur fossils. Like that puts our country. So it's a great thing for everybody, was what I'm saying. Like, so there's no reason to contaminate their dig sites with fake plaster cast fossils unless the whole thing is bullshit. Because then it's like, who can fake it to make it longer? And I'm not going to tell if you don't tell. Let's run this game and see who comes out on top.
Well,
That's what I think it was.
Isn't that like the space race? Basically, same
Yeah.
concept.
Like, we won't tell if you won't tell who's going to make their side look cooler first.
Exactly.
Then when you take the fame out of it, you're left with the fortune. So these guys were making a ton of money at the same time. So
Yep.
they were being paid by institutions and, you name it, to go and excavate these sites. And I'm sure they were paid by the fossil that they got out of these sites.
Yeah.
Then you go a couple hundred years, right into the 2000s, late 1900s. And the money machine of dinosaurs starts cranking. You see it in pop culture. And like you said right when we started, how much dinosaur stuff does your kid have? There's a whole market around dinosaurs, the pajamas, the books, the toys. They're making stupid money on these prehistoric creatures that once roamed the earth.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And I'll tell you what, man, I watched Jurassic Park like a week ago. I know, of course, every time my wife probably gets annoyed with me now because we're watching it and she's like, "Is that a velociraptor?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." But also it doesn't matter because they're fake.
No, that's CGI.
But yeah, there is a market for it. And I think what's really shitty about this is that because, and I do think that's the root of it all, right? Well, two-faced, right? So it helps out evolution and it's a money-making machine. And because of those two things, they will never tell the truth about it. Ever. Like, even if every fossil was allowed to be independently documented and researched and it turned out to be a fraud, they would never be like, oh, but they still got to be out there somewhere. We just haven't found the real ones yet. You know, like, they'll never let it go.
Yeah. Also,
Why aren't they
too,
doing... Go ahead.
No, just a quick thing I thought of just now. Like, also, too, there's the story around how dinosaurs died, right? With the giant asteroid, and it was like a cataclysmic event, blah, blah, blah. So, that in our mind is like, could that happen again to us, right?
That's why
So,
NASA comes out with an article every other day. An asteroid the size of my grandmother's left titty is headed straight for Earth, and scientists don't know what to do. And then, like, 2 days later, it'll be like, scientists say that the asteroid the size of my grandmother's left titty just missed us. Phew.
phew.
By
right?
93 million miles.
Yeah, right.
Traveling 6,666 miles per hour. Okay.
Yeah. It does. It adds that constant fear, especially when you incorporate the movies. Armageddon, Day After Tomorrow, all these different things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's that scarcity and fear. Those two things I think are the most important part. And like you said, the evolution thing. If you started to question the existence of dinosaurs, the how they evolved into birds and other reptiles, then you have to question all evolution.
Uh-huh.
Everything that modern science is based on, basically.
Have you noticed that we don't see a lot of water-dwelling fossils in these museums? No aquatic
There's
fossils,
some.
really?
There's some.
Yeah,
so
the little guys? Or
my kids are
full-blown...
my kids are very into like the Mosasaurus, the ichthyosauruses, so the aquatic ones. But then I look at those and I'm like, isn't that just a gigantic fish?
Yeah.
Right.
Like if it was to be a real skeleton, right?
Yeah, it would be hard to find it, but we knew that there was water much higher at one point on this earth. I mean, the Grand Canyon has evidence of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be something in there. Like if it washed into that canyon and then when the waters receded, it couldn't get out and it died, there's bound to be a fossil in there somewhere. And they don't seem to ever really find a whole lot of those. But see, I have somewhat of an alternative view about dinosaurs, like on its face. For one thing, I don't believe in all the different fucking breeds, right? You had like 7 to choose from, 8 to choose from my childhood. That's what I'm sticking with. Okay, all these other ones with feathers and beaks and fucking, this one had like imposable thumbs, whatever, right? I think giant lizards did exist. I would be more along the lines to say that if we ever did find some type of very large fossils, I think dragons were here at one point. I really do.
Mm.
And I find it very unique that in every ancient civilization, no matter what part of the earth they were on, they all had their own stories about something that looked pretty much the same universally. Now, if you look at Asian cultures in the East, they view dragons as like guardians, protectors of family, protectors of lineage, good luck. If you look at the Western cultures, it was something we had to destroy, slay. It was ravaging towns and women and children. And, so we had a very evil look on dragons versus the East had a very positive outlook on dragons, but they look the same. They act the same behavior, same characteristics. It wasn't like, and this one was actually a herbivore. So we left that one, you know what I mean? Like it was just like dragons and then not dragons.
Right. Yeah. Like that makes
So
more sense to me as well.
where could that possible mix-up come from? Do you think that's intentional? Like they know that they're dragon bones, but they're telling us it's dinosaurs,
Yeah.
or they're just mistaking it? Like, but why? What difference does it make whether it was a T-Rex or a flying dragon? It's not here anymore, as far as we
Well,
know.
there's two reasons. I think that's like not two reasons, but built on like a multi story. Like a multi story that's left out of history on purpose, right? Now, being somebody who believes in a creator, I read the Bible. I also read the Book of Enoch, and I understand at the Council of Nicaea, they purposely took books out of the Bible for a reason. I believe because certain books, if you were to slide them back into the Bible, probably go all the way back to the Hebrew, they would tell a very different story about the lineage that's still here. I'm talking like Nephilim, fallen angels, giants, dragons, titans. Like they got all these stories from somewhere. I think it's because those entities and creatures were here at one point. We had a documented history about it. That shit got taken out so they could replace it with their own. Because like giants and dragons, where do you put that in an evolutionary timeline?
You can't.
I don't think you can.
They're their own unique creatures. And it's just like everything else. Everything is inverted. We know this, right? From studying every other conspiracy theory under the sun. So they basically make the real into a fantasy and make the fantasy imaginary thing into real science. Even COVID itself, right? Some would argue it didn't exist at all, and yet it became a huge lie perpetuated around the world, right? It's no different. Same playbook.
What's interesting about dinosaurs, though, is a lot of people defend it the same way they will defend like the shape of the earth,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't actually even know some of the things that we've said tonight. Like if I were to tell most people, hey, do you know dinosaurs are fake and never existed? Generally, the first response is like, dude, we have fossils in museum. I'm like, actually, did you know that they're not fossils? They're actually like plaster casts. Now, some people would be like, oh, I didn't know that. Others would be like, oh, so you think they're plaster casts. Okay. So you probably believe that the earth is flat and that aliens are at Area 51, right? Like,
Yeah, and that latter portion of them are a good 80%.
yeah, the steps that I took to get there, right? But it's, yeah, they don't know these like very simplistic things that if you take a step back, of course, we look at things a little bit more in depth than the common folk are who are just worried about paying fucking bills, and where their next meal's coming from. We look at it and say, yeah, this is this was the catalyst for me to look into this. Why are all the bones plaster cast? What do you mean they came up with the term before they ever found a fossil? What do you mean the first one was derived off of one bone?
Yeah.
Like these are the questions that I was asking. And then I started doing more research and I came to the conclusion, I'm like, oh, this is all bullshit. Right? Now, of course, most people probably won't do that. And I understand that.
Yeah. Maybe another reason too why they kind of have made dragons into this like mythical legendary creature is they don't want us to know that dragons were real based on like bloodlines and stuff. Even say, what is it, the Rothschilds are the blood of the dragon or
Yes.
this sort of
Actually,
thing. The Pindar, he has to he's the seed of the dragon and he has to pass on his seed, this whole thing, and he's supposedly a Rothschild. So it's like,
yeah.
Where does that come from? If dragons aren't real, why do you call yourself the bloodline of the dragon?
Right.
Why is that? Do you not want us to know something about dragon? And like you said, dragons are depicted so much in like spiritual practices, and they can mean different things in different cultures. But they're everywhere.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
With an agreed upon appearance, not like a different, unique appearance in each culture, right?
Right.
Generally the same.
Yeah, and they all seem to match. And you just kind of wonder, like, I almost wonder if, and I don't know how many paleontologists there are, like, that are rocking the shit in 2023 right now. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like the fad of finding dinosaur bones, no one gives a shit about anymore. Right? So they can, and I think maybe that's too part of why they just make up all these fucking silly different dinosaurs, because they could just put a new one in there, throw out a name, you know, the Phalanthroposaurus or whatever, and then put it in a movie. And it's got, this one has wings and it's got fucking two tails with spikes in it.
Yeah.
But it's an ocean. It goes in the ocean. I don't know. It goes in the ocean for some reason.
What about the one in Jurassic World that had like the body of a pterodactyl and the head of a T-Rex? And I thought that was just like some shit they made up for like genetic stuff that they did in the movie, like fictionally. But I was just looking up an article when I wanted to reference the Quetzalcoatlus or whatever it was called, of the dinosaurs in Jurassic World Dominion. And I was like, yo, they actually think that shit is real. How anatomically does the head of a T-Rex fly with... I just can't. I can't. Once you start to look at it, it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Just like when you start to question the shape of the earth. And you're like, wait a second. Once you start to learn some basic facts, you're like, that actually is...
Where does that leave the Megalodon, right? The Megalodon's sort of in the same group of dinosaurs. As far as I know, they've only found like teeth, and they have whole mock-ups of what this thing looked like, just based off of its
tooth. Wouldn't that just be a gigantic shark?
Yeah, dude, I don't fuck with the ocean. No, dude.
That's
no
just
way,
scary.
Bro. Y'all saw that fake ass submarine get crunched up like a Pepsi can.
Oh god,
that nobody saw go into the water or anything like that. No big deal, right? Yeah. But I'll kind of believe some of what scientists say. When scientists say like they've only explored like 10% of the world's oceans, like we have no fucking idea what's down there. Like no clue. You know that like that one fish that has that little thing in front of its head and it like glows?
Yeah.
And it really does have like these fucking gargantuan mouth teeth. Like,
an
I forget what it's called. Yeah, an anglerfish. That's what it's called. Yeah. An anglerfish, right? Imagine that, like, same size times 10 in the depths that we can never even get to.
No, thank you.
Yeah, like, I'm sure that could exist and we would never find remnants of it. Like, what if, you know, these giant lizards or whatever that were here at one point, through like a type of microevolution, like started being more towards the water because civilization started expanding and slaying their kind. So through an adaptation, they were able to go into the ocean and be down there full time or whatever, something like that. Who knows? I mean, like adaptation is real. Like that's probably the only thing that evolution got right. But because like back to the asteroid thing, talking about like, okay, if the Earth's a ball, let's just say, go with that argument, because if there's dinosaurs and the Earth's a ball, they're synonymous with them, right?
They must go together.
They have to.
If one is true, so is the other. Gotcha.
What side did the asteroid hit to wipe out everything around the ball?
It was allegedly in the Gulf of Mexico, I think.
That's just the biggest hole they could find at the time.
Yeah, that's
probably this biggest
one. That's got to be it.
Biggest crater. There. Boom.
Yeah. I mean, the story of it just... And then what happened after the dinosaurs? Like...
Oh, well, some of them made it into caves and they evolved into rats or something.
Yeah, how did we get like birds from them then? And why are birds of prey called raptors?
Because in the evolutionary timeline, reptiles, which is what dinosaurs were,
maybe raptors are just gigantic ass birds that once maybe could walk a little bit. I don't, if they even existed.
Oh, see, that's why the velociraptor was no bigger than a turkey.
There you go, because it was a fucking bird from the get-go. I always found that weird because my kids went to a nature school for a year during COVID times. And they were like, Mummy, we're at the raptor sanctuary. And I was like, raptor sanctuary? What is that? And I was like, oh, it's birds. I didn't even fucking know.
I'm like, yo, they cloned one? That's cool.
And
Yeah,
I was
wanna
like,
go.
eagles with like their talons and shit. I was like, oh, I get it. Raptor.
Yeah, it could be the connection that they use there. You know, I did in doing research for this, I found out that nobody to date has ever excavated a full fossil of a dinosaur, like
So
complete.
there's a little bit missing. A little bit.
Never.
Not once.
Wow.
I thought there were at least one or two. That's wild.
Don't you think an ancient culture would have stumbled upon one at some point?
Before 1853.
Before the 1850s?
Yeah,
Like,
like they
just
did a
one
lot of
time.
digging back then.
True.
Yes.
And then, now mind you too, this is before, because see, now we're just getting down on this conspiracy hole, because this is the time when they're building world fairs too, right?
Yep.
And there's no way they built those things the way that they said that they did, as quickly as they did, and also systematically. They're finding these things called dinosaur bones that they didn't know what it looked like. You know, what was it, 13 years prior or whatever?
Mm.
And now they got a world stage to share it on.
Ooh.
How interesting is that?
Is that when like freak shows started? All these like oddities and curiosities. It was like in the psyche.
Yeah, I
humanity.
kind of wonder if
Just an
that
appetite
just
for freaky shit.
it ties into like the World's Fair, and like you had the orphan trains and all that crazy shit that was happening, and then they could sell the Neanderthal man into the monkey and all that stuff on display. My dog is barking. I'll be right back. I'm gonna beat that.
Yeah, I don't know. These dinos.
It's all a fucking lie.
Just lies on lies. I want to say something about how Brian mentioned a missing link before. I want to say something, but I'll always say it when he gets back. Just something weird I thought of. Oh, sorry.
All right, sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay, so I thought of something weird.
Okay.
You know how you were mentioning a while back about the skeleton thing, and it was like part human bones and part orangutan bones,
Piltdown Man.
and you happen to use the term missing link.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a kids movie that came out like not that long ago called Missing Link, and it's about a creature that looks like an orangutan. I just thought that was super weird. Why?
Yeah, that's what they need. That's the one thing that they need to complete their evolutionary puzzle. And since the early 1900s, they have not been able to find it. And I think that's why they continue the dinosaur lie, right? Because if you lose dinosaurs, evolution starts to crumble. Evolution crumbles, then you start asking more questions about like, well, if you're wrong about the origins of the universe, you're wrong about dinosaurs, what else are you wrong about? I think that's like, you don't ever really hear too many people talk about this topic, right? Because I think a lot of people think like, okay, they lied about dinosaurs, who cares, whatever, right? I'm like, no, it's a much bigger puzzle that we're solving based on these things that just like the narratives start to crumble when you look at it, right? And that's what they don't want, is they don't want people looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of questioning the existence of dinosaurs for me was learning about like how oil is actually probably a renewable resource. And that,
100% it is.
And that the earth
They
is
say
like,
there's a shitload of it.
yeah, and that the earth is like generating oil all the time. And that's how we can extract it on a continuous basis, which is very interesting because then I think also, like we were saying before, it ties into evolution, but then also ties into climate change narrative, right? Because now this push for like all this green energy and we have to move to this model because we're running out of fossil fuels and blah, blah. I think honestly people just don't know how oil is made, and it's not really like something they teach us in school. I was trying to find who like made up the rumor that dinosaur bones were fossil fuels, because that actually is not
Probably
what
Rockefeller.
right, not what the term fossil fuels even means. Supposedly fossil fuels, it just means like organic material, so probably plankton and like microorganisms like that that have gone to the bottom of the ocean, been compressed with gases in the earth, and that's what's making oil. That makes a lot more sense, right?
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Okay, so the term fossil fuel was first used by German chemist Caspar Neumann, 1759, and that continued through until the late 1900s. And
So
it's just biomass. It's just dead
So-
trees and plankton and all that shit.
So based on the description of that, everyone moving forward should just know that fossil fuels has nothing to do with dinosaur bones.
right.
Because you said that was what, Frank, 1750?
1759.
Before even
59.
the Royal Society made up the term dinosaur.
In 1842.
Right?
So it's not fucking dinosaur bones.
So it's like they just let us make that correlation of like fossils, fossil fuels, and then never corrected us. Or
Uh-huh.
somebody did it on purpose.
It could have been a jumbling up of the word fossil. Like when he said fossil fuel in 17, he could have just been referring to that organic biomass that is petroleum.
Right.
And they just let it run in the sense of dinosaur bones rotting in the earth. And,
Yeah.
I guess.
they're pretty rare. They're pretty rare.
Could be sort of the same thing. But
Whereas dead plants are vastly abundant on Earth, buried
Right.
deep below the soil.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because who knows how big this earth really is.
Lands beyond lands, perhaps.
Lands beyond lands.
But yeah, I
lands
think it
beyond lands.
totally ties into climate change also.
Yeah, because they just keep compounding the original lie, right? And I truly think that's why they shifted the term to climate change
Instead of
instead
global
of
warming.
global warming.
Yeah.
Because if they're visibly seeing a temperature not increase on Earth, then that narrative falls apart. So if you just call it climate change, temperature goes up, oh, climate change. Temperature goes down, oh, climate change. Temperature stay the same, oh, climate change.
Fancy
Right?
that.
It can never go away. And I mean, it plays into everything, right? So it's not just simply like a group of like sciencey nerds decided to like, we should fool everyone and tell them there's bones of dinosaur. Like, I don't think it was just that, right? I'm sure like some of those people existed. They got on the train or whatever. I almost wonder if any paleontologists out there are ever allowed to talk about the unsuccess of their industry, because they only highlight certain ones, right? I'm sure there's more than like the 12 that have shown up on National Geographic, right? What about all the other paleontologists that don't find fucking anything? Are they allowed to talk about it? Or if they find something, do they just automatically assume like, oh, this is part of this dinosaur? I found a part of this dinosaur based on the official narrative already. You know what I'm saying?
Just theories upon theories. Even like when you have like astrophysicists and whatnot, and they base something off of the theory of gravity. Well, still a theory. It's never been proven. It's a hypothetical industry.
Yeah, like originally, like we said, man, like they don't ever get rid of the original hypothesis, right? Piltdown Man, the missing link, dinosaurs, like even if they were to come out and admit, we've never actually found a complete fossil of a dinosaur, a complete skeletal fossil of a dinosaur. We just make the rest of the shit up, but we know it's for sure out there. Like it's unfalsifiable, like it's an unfalsifiable claim, because really they could be out there, and they just haven't found any yet. And most people would just accept that answer, like, okay, gravity's bullshit, and so is the theory of special relativity. And yeah, our model violates second law of thermodynamics. Oh yeah, and dark matter and dark energy, we have never even been able to define it, or we know what it is, but it has to be there. Like they don't ever give up the original idea, because that means that they have to be willing to admit the alternative, and that's when they lose control. Like imagine losing the dinosaur industry.
The world collapses. Science collapses. Religion collapses.
Yes, because the churches are telling the same thing. The churches just put a different spin on it, because they're like, kids will ask, I did. Like, okay, if God made everything in the world, how come he made dinosaurs and then all them got blowed up but not humans? Right? You ask these questions as kids.
Yeah.
They're like, well, dinosaurs actually existed with men, and they had them as pets or so. I don't whatever they tell kids, like, But remember Noah's Ark? You're like, okay, so all dinosaurs died in the Noah's Ark, right, or whatever they'd come up with, because they're like that. That would also be the death of religion because they tell the same story, right? So then people would be like, wait, you lied to me too? I thought you guys were like, thou shalt not lie. It was like one of the rules, right?
You have to start questioning their authority. That's not good.
So when it comes to a giant meteor hitting Earth, do you think that threw all of the dinosaurs like thousands of miles up into the sky and that's why all of their bones are scattered? Or is it more likely that the majority of them just died right there in place?
I would say that's the only plausible explanation that they've never given.
What, the up in the air thing?
Yeah.
Right, because otherwise it would have just been like in place, like that volcano. What was that?
Pompeii?
Yeah, Pompeii.
Yeah,
right, they all just froze
they
in
would
place.
have been, instantaneously like preserved. We would be finding whole skeletons everywhere if that was.
That's what you would think, right?
Just like
Right.
Pompeii is like literally like how people were when the ash hit them.
Dude, unless Pompeii is like from an ancient, advanced civilization, they're like, we're gonna fuck with the dumb ones that come after us, and those are all plaster casts.
Oh man, new conspiracy theory: Pompeii is fake.
Yeah, like
Pompeii
who's gonna
is fake.
fight me on Pompeii? Right, the people that were there.
Oh man, but
Right. I'm sure there's some like blue-haired activist somewhere, like never question Pompeii or whatever. Thou shalt not question Pompeii.
But that, like, if there was like that giant volcanic explosion or whatever, or multiple ones across the globe, shall we say, the Earth, then like, yeah, wouldn't the dinosaurs have just been like died in place? And I guess you could justify them being buried by years of Earth processes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll also think about this too. That like that would be just the dinosaurs at the impact site.
Yeah.
So what
Well,
if it
those ones
caused...
probably just like vaporized?
Right. So like, let's just say the asteroid hits off the Gulf of Mexico. Let's just say that's where it is.
Mm-hmm.
What about the dinosaurs in like Russia, on the other side of the globe? Like, did they just get thrown into the sky? They're like, what the fuck? And they're just like smashed into the ground. It looked like a fatality in Mortal Kombat.
Well, don't they theorize that the volcanic plume of ash like traveled around rapidly?
Yeah, and it changed the environment, and all the plants died, and
They
all the
slowly
Then
starved.
why did plants come back, but dinosaurs didn't?
Because the thing is,
And fish and monkeys.
there's
and
a fish and a monkey.
birds.
It
and-
slithered out of the water.
and they fell in love, and they had an offspring.
You are making a new Pixar movie right now.
Yeah.
This is the plot.
Unfortunately, the monkey left for a lotto ticket, right? And it left the frog, the newly mothered frog, all on its own. So it's like, you have to learn how to survive because the frog died.
Sad.
And then they're like, oh, I'm gonna grow fucking legs now.
I gotta go catch that bitch. I need some legs.
Cause fuck this hopping bullshit. And then boom, humans. And then he brought a plant with him he had in his pocket. So
Obviously, that's
It all
like, that's just as valid as like an explanation of what happened as to what they say. And then to question dinosaurs is like, I listened to a debate. There was a debate on this show called Modern Day Debates. I listened to a lot of them, and there's one about, did dinosaurs ever exist? And it was basically, I don't say it was as similar as the conversation we're having, but like, the guy arguing in favor of dinosaurs existing was so condescending and pompous about something he's never ever verified himself, ever. Just shit he could find on the internet, right? Like, he's never been on like a dig where he was scooping up some fucking dirt and there's like a whole skeleton of a T-Rex. He can only go off of what other people are like. This is an unverifiable claim that is taught as fact, the same way evolution is taught, the same way a lot of things are taught, right? And if you teach the generation that's the youngest, get them excited about dinosaurs, get them, cartoon movies and Pixar and dinosaurs and amusement and jammies and fucking kid underwear with dinosaur T-Rex in the butt. Like, hey, it's cool, right? And they play with dinosaurs. Eventually, they won't want to anymore as they kind of grow out of it. Some of them stay interested into it and want to go dig for one, and they don't find any, and then their life is a lie, and they live a life of depression and alcoholism.
That's so sad.
But
oh no.
you forget about it, and then you get older, and someone says to you, "Hey, do you know dinosaurs are fake?" And you go, "Fucking what?" And you jump into like defense mode.
It's like Derek Zoolander mode.
Because you had such fond memories of it during like a very formidable time in your life, and someone's questioning your reality now.
Mm-hmm.
And people start fighting back about it, and it's like, have you even like questioned any of these things? You know what I'm saying?
How many kids in the 90s wanted to be either a paleontologist or an astronaut?
For showsies.
Jurassic World, Apollo 13.
I wanted to be a wrestler, but
I did one of my public speaking things in grade school on Apollo 13.
oh really? You fucking liar, Teresa, you little bastard.
I know, right? Oh, we got to the next round, so it must have been pretty good. But
damn,
yeah.
you fuck someone's whole life up, Teresa. You gotta go apologize. You gotta go find them.
I do have to make amends.
I'm left sort of questioning what other subjects are included in that like 1st to 3rd grade curriculum, because it's those big fundamentals where you're learning that are really questionable: the shape of our planet, the other planets in the solar system, the dinosaurs, the colors. My red's not your red, and you can't prove me wrong. You know, like what else is in that boat, and
Another
how
big
much
one
of it
is germ theory.
yeah
Germ theory.
yeah
Wash your hands.
Learning about, oh, don't sneeze on this and don't do that, and like putting a lot of faith in your doctor as well. At that age, like, oh, well, the doctor said you have to this, the doctor said you have to do that.
Yeah.
I'd say that those are formative years. I mean, some stuff is just basic hygiene, of course, obviously.
yeah sure.
Like teaching kids that stuff. But a lot of it is,
like, don't scratch your asshole and then touch your eye.
Well, especially in the last few years, I can see children comparing them to my own. Not saying I'm like totally. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of German terrain theory. But people who don't understand terrain theory at all because they've never been exposed to it or contemplated it, and they just think like tonight, I was at a birthday party for a 12-year-old, and the mother told him not to blow his candles out.
Why?
Because I'm guessing she didn't want his germs on the cake if she's still COVID aware.
Yeah, she probably drives around in her car with her kid on her lap too.
And no, she really doesn't. So I was surprised. I was like, why is she telling him not to blow his candles out? And then they were trying to like do it all. I don't know. Like, did she do it because she thought that the other parents would want that? God. And in my head, I was like,
you just like psychologically fucked your kid.
Well, the last few years has. I had a kid come to my house in 2020. My kids were scootering on the sidewalk with him, and he fell off his scooter. So I handed it to him, but I didn't grab it by the handles. I grabbed it by like the shaft, let's say. And I like put it back to him like this. And he freaked out. This is like when COVID first started. It was like June 2020. And he was like, oh my God, you touched it. Now it's ruined. And I'm looking at his mom, and she's like, oh, I swear we're not that strict. And I was like, yeah, you fucking.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my God.
Either he's watching the news or you're watching.
Well, and then she said that her kid could come over and play in the backyard, and our kids could play 6 feet apart. I'm not fucking kidding. Yeah, that.
Oh no, and you murdered her.
No.
Oh no.
Her kid would play with his action figures, and my kid could play with his action figures, and my kid didn't understand why he couldn't go see his friend closer in our own backyard. And his mom was so nervous. This is what I mean. Germ theory.
Yeah. Here's another one.
I don't think it works like that.
Teaching kids that Ben fucking Franklin flew a goddamn kite with a piece of metal tied to it and got hit with like 100,000 volts and was like, oh, fucking light bulbs and shit. And like, yeah.
Right?
Phases. Yeah, absolutely. I know what electricity is.
There's got to be some
That's
occult
another one.
symbolism in that. There's got to be occult symbolism in that with the kite and the key and the lightning.
It's probably Hiram
fell.
Abiff's fucking key or something like that.
Satan fell like a bolt of lightning and hit the keys. It's got to be
Keys
something.
are the
There's
keys
got
to
to
the
be something
knowledge.
in that. Yes. We just cracked it. There we go.
Yeah, sorry to break it to you, kids. From an electrician, that's not what happened.
But okay, sorry, just like circle back to germ theory for a second. But imagine if people question that a little bit, then you'd have to question the whole vaccine program. Based on that.
Can't do that.
And then they can't, turn us all gay with vaccines.
You saw what it did to the frog, that poor frog that had a baby.
And change our genders and shit.
The freaking frogs are gay. I want to smoke weed with him so bad.
Just for that, right? You make him say it.
Like, dude, just yell at me.
Just yell at me for 2 hours.
Alex Jones,
I'm the New World Order.
Alex Jones needs to start doing cameos.
Yeah.
Where he tells screams
yeah.
that the frogs are gay.
That would be fucking dope. I would buy one for like the person in my life that did not believe in any conspiracies. I would go into debt to send them one every day. Every single day.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, Frank, Teresa, are we on the agreement here that dinosaurs as a whole are a hoax? Or do you think maybe a little bit along the terms that I do about some dragons? Maybe that's not a confusion like Frank was suggesting, but on purpose. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think giant biology and dragons, most likely, is what dinosaurs actually are.
During the land before time, I am convinced that there was reptiles that walked on the earth. I don't think that's what they're allegedly pulling out of the ground, though.
What do you think happened to those?
Just died. That's life. You're born, you die.
Circle of life. Little Simba.
I don't. The odds of the giant meteor hitting. There's no evidence of that besides a giant hole in the ocean, which could very well be natural. Besides that, there's not really proof.
That's pretty deep. I like that one.
What do you think,
like
Big Country?
One. Yeah, I think I'll say this. Dinosaurs, on how they are presented in current science, I think are a hoax. To say that there weren't giant lizards that had one day walked this earth, and maybe still do, perhaps, somewhere, is a definite possibility in my book. Call them dragons, call them whatever you want. I think that they know about it. It's being hidden on purpose, the same way they hide giants and all the other shit. But yeah, dinosaurs, if you think of like Jurassic Park, Land Before Time, definitely not for me.
Dinosaurs
Solid.
on trial. Guilty.
Dinosaurs on trial.
Guilty as charged.
Hang them.
Hang.
They already hung.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Authorized order number 66.
No.
Palpatine killed the dinosaurs.
That's a dope t-shirt right there.
Fuck yeah.
It's a dope
Dinosaurs
t-shirt.
didn't kill themselves. There we go. Never existed to
That's
begin
pretty
with.
good. That's pretty
God.
good. I will say this, man. I don't know how long you guys plan on going, but I will say this. Like, if anybody's listening to this and they're wondering about, like, well, all three of these people just told me with some pretty convincing evidence that dinosaurs are fake, why the fuck is Big Country letting his kid play with dinosaurs?
They're cool.
Honestly, man. Yeah, it's just something for fun for kids to do. Like, we also are not telling our son about Santa Claus just because I felt like I don't need to continue that lie to him to condition him into a world that's going to lie to him all the time. He needs to be able to kind of sift through the difference between stories for reasoning and total bullshit. Teach him to be like a critical thinker, And dinosaurs are totally a lie, but he's not at the age yet where he can even conceptualize a lie between the truth. Right? He's 2.5, so don't give me a bunch of emails with hatred. Okay, here's my disclaimer.
Haters coming out of the woodwork.
Dinosaur defenders.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're such a dinosaur defender, dude.
Oh, man.
Don't be a dinosaur defender.
I'd say we hit all the keynotes.
I think
so.
There is, though, not to just open a whole other can and be devil's advocate for a second, but there is a whole camp. There is a whole camp that thinks dinosaurs still exist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Beyond
In the
the
ocean?
ice wall.
No,
I mean, I
like
could see that.
people say that they're not extinct. Some
Like, where the fuck are they then?
in the depths of the jungle, not to be commonly sighted. Yeah, apparently.
Well,
I have not
they
heard
find
that.
I've
they
heard it
find
here
new
and there.
species all the time. New species of animals and insects
Possibly,
and
right?
fish.
Yeah.
But then at that point, like, how do you differentiate a dinosaur from just any other newfound animal?
Right.
It's a good
Style.
question. I don't know enough about it to comment further, but there is that theory out there in
They're still
tinfoil
here.
land that they're still here and they never went away.
Frank, I got a theory for you when we stop recording. I don't want to say it on your show and get fucking banned.
Dude, ban it.
Have like the KGB show up at my house or something like that.
Oh, God.
shit.
It's after hours. It's after hours.
So
Yeah,
concluded?
dinosaurs, man. You know, like I said though, it was a tough one for me. It was a tough thing. It was a tough pill to swallow. Flat Earth was hard. Dinosaurs were just as hard because I loved them as a kid. Great memories. I was like, damn, dude, is anything from my world fucking real? You know?
Yeah, this
So,
is the thing.
it was hard.
The thing. Yeah, and you know, if you're new to this, hearing this information, don't be like, oh, these guys are science deniers. It's only because we've looked into it.
Yeah.
You know, and looking into what the common accepted upon narrative is based on. It's just,
Right.
you know, you sometimes with space, dinosaurs, germs, whatever, it's because you haven't questioned the information you've been given. And you're like, wait, they actually think that like we're spinning at this speed around the sun? And they actually think that this happened with dinosaurs? Like, probably a lot of people didn't know that the term wasn't even coined until 1842. Probably a lot of people didn't know that. I mean, maybe our audience knew that already. I don't know, but
They're like, oh, they're covering this again? Jesus Christ. Old news, guys.
hopefully people learned something. Even if you still believe they existed, hopefully you learned a little something.
Yeah, and if you do believe they exist, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead.
We don't hate.
Yeah. Like,
Get
it's
yourself
not
a
like
nice pair of jammies, though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like we're gonna see in fucking like in the bar and like, hey, dinosaur fucking defender, I got one for you here. Well, you cross that bar, I'm gonna whoop your ass. You know, like that's not. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, like pedophile's still bad, right? And they're like, yeah, for sure. I'm like, oh, see, we're cool,
Gang, gang.
There you
gang,
go.
dude.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I had a blast, guys.
That was a lot
It
of
was
fun.
very good. Very good. Excited for this second round of roundtables to get out there.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm excited to hear the other topics as well. So
Hell yeah.
look for those.
All right. That's going to do it, guys. GG's.